Nestled in the mountains of West Virginia, a steam railway continues to plug away, even now, performing tourist operations throughout the beautiful countryside. It's known as Cass Scenic Railroad, and their claim to fame is not only being a heritage railway, but also running geared steam locomotives, shays, a Heisler, and a Climax type, pulling tourist operations all along their historical trackage. And look at them. Look at the funny gears. Look at the funny gears, you guys. They're funny. I like them. This is the story of Cass. The origins of Cass Scenic Railroad date back all the way to 1901, when the West Virginia Pulp and Paper Company founded, Cass, the town. It was a company town that was meant to serve the needs of the men that worked in the nearby mountains, cutting up spruce and hemlock for the West Virginia Spruce Lumber Company, which was a subsidiary of the Pulp and Paper Company. At one time, they actually boasted the largest double-band sawmill in the world, which processed about 1.25 billion board feet of lumber during its lifetime. The railroad was meant to be a huge part of this project, since, it was easier to move a large amount of lumber with locomotives. It climbed the Back Allegheny Mountain, and eventually reached a meadow area, which is now known as Whitaker Station. There, a logging camp was established for the immigrants who were actually building the railroad, and they soon reached the top of Gobbler's Knob, and beyond that, a location on the top of the mountain that's known as Spruce. They built another small town in that location, with a company store, houses, a hotel, and even a doctor's office. Then they started focusing on logging the red spruce trees, which tended to grow at higher elevations, and originally the Pulp and Paper Company was only interested in the red spruce, since it was good for making pulp, which they could turn into paper. But unbeknownst to them at the time, they'd actually built their operation on kind of a gold mine. See, there were other types of trees in the area, hardwoods like maple, cherry, birch, and oak, which in that amount were worth a lot of money. Only after a few years of operating did they realize how much was there, and that's when they decided to build the mill in the town of Cass, which could process the hardwoods on site. The railroad would extend the trackage up to Bald Knob, which is the third highest mountain peak in West Virginia. When the red spruce was logged out, they tore up some of the track, but extended other areas down to a valley that was near the town of Spruce, at a bend in the Shavers Fork of Cheat River. They set up another new town there, which they, again, named Spruce. And the former town, they named Old Spruce. Because, look, these are the same people that brought us the amazing state name of West Virginia. Are you really surprised? The operations carried on for the next few decades, but in June of 1942, West Virginia Pulp and Paper decided to sell the operation to Mower Lumber Company, which then continued things until July 1st of 1960. They had seen a rapid decline in the timber industry in that region, so they opted to shut the whole thing down, which crippled the economic viability of the area. These kinds of company towns rely on the industry to keep things going. Generally, the company is the only major industry in the region. When it's gone, and many people were out of work. Following the closure, everything was sold to a holding company that was named Don Mower Lumber Company, which, interestingly, was completely unrelated to the Mower Lumber Company. And the railroad itself was actually conveyed to the Midwest Raleigh Corporation, which did begin the process of scrapping the whole thing, including the equipment, which consisted of many geared locomotives that had been utilized for decades. Geared steam locomotives are a little weird when compared to conventional ones, but they do have benefits. While they're often not nearly as fast as conventional steam locomotives, their tractive effort is insane for their size. Shays in particular are capable of handling much tighter turns, going along rough track, and dealing with steep grades. They're very unique, and just throwing them away didn't sit well with many people. It was part of the area's history and it was about to be completely destroyed. But a group of local businessmen that was led by a Pennsylvania railfan named Russell Baum wound up stepping in. They didn't outright buy the property. They instead managed to convince the West Virginia state legislature to make the Cass Railroad into a state park. Under state ownership, everything was going to be preserved, and in 1963, the first tourist excursion train left the Cass Depot for Whitaker Station, 4 miles to the north. Since that time, the railroad has operated as a heritage railroad, utilizing the unique geared steam locomotives, most of which were already on site. In 1977, the Scenic Railroad State Park took possession of the entire company town of Cass, as well as the old hardwood mill there, in order to preserve that as well. Visitors to the railroad ride on converted logging cars, giving a unique experience, that are pushed along by the geared steam locomotives. They have 11 miles of standard gauge track, originally laid in 1901, and the line traverses the very steep grades of Back Allegheny Mountain through switchbacks, which were a method for scaling mountains without actually winding around them. They would head up a grade to a certain point, and then back up another section of track, and basically zigzag up the side of the mountain. It makes for an interesting ride, and the railroad owns 8 Shay locomotives, a single Heisler type, and 1 Climax. They have 3 different trip packages: a 2-hour round trip to Whitaker Station, a 5-hour round trip to the abandoned site of the ghost town of Spruce, which, by the way, was once the coldest and highest town east of the Rocky Mountains, and another 5-hour round trip to Bald Knob. They also refurbished many of the company houses and are available for rent through Cass Scenic Railroad State Park. You can also rent a small cabin on Bald Knob, and some cabooses can be reserved for private use as well. The area also boasts town and shop tours. Currently, the railroad is operating under lease with the Durbin and Greenbrier Valley Railroad, or D&GV. What happened was, in October 2014, it was announced that the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources was transferring their administrative responsibilities to a different state agency, West Virginia State Rail Authority. Under that arrangement, D&GV would, again under lease, assume day-to-day operations of the line as part of their existing contract with the WVSRA. At the moment, they control the scheduling of trains, staffing train excursions, and maintaining the railroad and its equipment. They've been doing it since 2015, although the Division of Natural Resources still maintains ownership of the right-of-way as well as the equipment, and they still handle staffing and maintaining the non-railroad portions of the park. But so far it seems like a pretty decent arrangement, and Cass is still plucking away as they always have. Some of the locomotives they are utilizing are over 100 years old. Shay No. 4, for example, was built in December of 1922, and Shay No. 5 was built in November of 1905. She is actually the oldest operational Shay. They also boast Heisler No. 6, though she's actually been moved to Durbin for their own heritage trains, but she's still owned by the state of West Virginia. And there's Shay No. 6, who is notable as not only being the last Shay ever built by Lima Locomotive Works in May of 1945, but also Cass's largest engine. She's actually the second largest Shay ever constructed, and the largest Shay still in existence. She is Big Chungus. And there's Climax No. 9, who may deserve her own video because her story is just a series of unfortunate events right up until 2019, when they managed to finally restore her to operation, making it so that Cass has all 3 of the major geared locomotive types in operation as of now. I can tell you from personal experience that Cass is actually a very, very, very nice place to go. I've been there several times in my life, and that railway is probably one of the reasons why Shays are one of my favorite types of locomotives. I mean, look at them. They're so funny. Look at their funny gears, you guys. They're funny. Laugh with them. They're having a good time, okay? All in all, it's a fantastic experience, and if you're ever in the area, I highly recommend it. And based on current information, it seems like Cass is here to stay for years to come. And with that, as your host, Darkness the Curse, I would like to give a very special thank you to all my generous patrons, my British Rail critics, And a shout out to all my underwater train finders. Some Dude 267, Orange Glass, Benjamin Owens, Panzer Kitsune 131-232, Josh Johnson, Metal for Life Guy, Anzac A1, Arthur Roy, Tommy Rossini, Lord Captain Von Thrust III, Joshua Long, Brian, Jack Carson's Railroad Videos, Hayden DeGrow, Master of None, Lord On 444, That Guy with a Beard, Mark Holding, Murder Drone Stall, A Person 723, DM Tribal Typhoon, Alfonso Lapuche, Royal Hudson 2860, Iserfer 1405, Charles Kwiatkowski, Matthew Wolf, Ohio Trucker 1, Mr. Sleepy, Matt Weaver, Alaric Jaspers, Tom Red Lion, Ennis Productions 8104, Hannah Bird, Hendrick Motorsports Fan 5, Wheeljack 8401, Rescues Greyhounds, Dr. Racer 78, The Baxter, and Caleb Crosswhite. Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.